In this video, you're going to learn how to choose the right domain name and web host for your online store website. And this is lesson 5 of a 10-part series on how to get started selling online. If you missed the first 4 lessons in this series, you can grab them all by signing up for my free 6-day e-commerce mini course below. Now, before we begin, I just want to reiterate some of the philosophies behind what I am teaching you today. And one of the common questions I get asked is, "Hey Steve, why not just open an eBay, an Etsy, or an Amazon store? Why should I go through all this trouble to launch my own online store website?" And if this is what you're thinking, let me ask you this. Would you place your future and your destiny in the hands of someone else who doesn't even have your interests in mind? Probably not, right? Well, guess what? eBay, Etsy, and Amazon, their primary concern is catering to their stockholders. They can change the rules at any time, they can raise prices, they can make your products less visible, and you could get banned. And keep in mind that in just the past several years, this has happened over and over again, and it's getting harder and harder to sell on these platforms. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't sell on these platforms, but you should be building your own branded website in addition to selling on these marketplaces. Never put all of your eggs in a single basket for all of your sales. So with that in mind, I wanted to give you some tips on registering your domain. So first of all, if you don't know what a domain is, the domain is the address which is typed into your browser to find your website. So what domain suffix should you use? Now, this is a common question I get asked. Should I get a .com, a .org, or a .net? Hey Steve, the address I did want is not available in the .com. Should I even bother registering the .net? Well, when it comes to registering a domain name, ultimately, the domain name doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because most people don't type in the domain in their web browser. But in the event that people do want to type in your address into the browser, it always pays to get the .com. It is everyone's first instinct to type in the website name .com over a .net or a .org or a .shop or any other suffix in terms of selecting the domain name. Make sure you do the research first before you register anything, and make sure you check out your competition because you don't want to pick a domain that very closely resembles your competitors. For example, I run bumblebeelinens.com, but if another company already had registered bumblebeelinen.com singular, I definitely would not want to register that domain. Similarly, if someone owned napkin.com, I would not want to register napkins.com. Also, you absolutely want to check the USPTO website to make sure that your domain is not trademarked. I once had a friend who used a trademark name as part of their domain. And then 5 years down the line, after they started making money, that company came back and sued him, saying that there was trademark infringement. And guess what? My buddy was forced to change the name of his company as a result. So make sure you check the trademark database. Also, in terms of ease of remembering and typability of your domain, never use hyphens or punctuation or numbers in your domain because it makes it so much harder to remember how to type it into the web browser. For example, I can never remember whether 4hourworkweek.com is with the word 4 or the number 4. Also, I can never remember how to spell Tim Ferriss's name either. You also want to avoid long domain names for that same reason. Domain names with 2 or 3 syllables work the best, and do not choose anything that's hard to spell because people are going to type it in incorrectly. Finally, try to use the keywords that you're targeting for your store in the domain if you can, but do not go overboard with it. Make it sound natural. Now, to make things way easier when it comes to choosing a domain name, I like to use a tool called BrandSnap.ai. BrandSnap.ai is an AI tool that helps you come up with a creative domain name based on your product niche. For example, let's say I want to sell Japanese calendars, which is something I used in the last example. I would simply type Japanese calendars into BrandSnap.ai. And within seconds, it will display a bunch of different AI-generated domain names for you to choose from. Now, the best part is that BrandSnap automatically checks the Whois database to make sure that the domain is available for purchase. Furthermore, it also checks the trademark database to make sure no one else owns the mark. And finally, it also checks to see if all the social media handles are available on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. This tool saves a tremendous amount of time and it is 100% free. You no longer need to do the manual lookups on all these different platforms to see if the name is available. Anyway, once you've decided on a domain name, the next step is to find a web host. A web host is the computer that your website runs on, and it's typically a server that is managed by a third-party company. Now, when you first start out with your online store, you definitely do not need anything powerful. So what you want to do is you want to choose a provider that is very simple and has a seamless upgrade path to more power as you need it. Now here's the thing about picking a web host. It's actually a very confusing process. There are a lot of fake web host reviews out there that promise unlimited bandwidth, unlimited storage, and unlimited everything. But in truth, the only way to tell whether a web host is good or not is to actually sign up and use it. But you don't want to go cheap on your web host by any means. Cheap or free hosts generally have very poor reliability or slow performance, or they skimp on support. So first off, if you decide to use Shopify, BigCommerce, or Shift4Shop as your e-commerce platform, you don't really need to worry about getting a web host because these companies automatically handle the website for you. You can simply sign up and you can start listing your products immediately. However, if you are on a budget and you want to use a 100% free open source shopping cart like WooCommerce, then you'll need a machine to run your website on. Now for WooCommerce, I recommend Bluehost as your starting web host. And I actually ran my own online store on Bluehost for 2 years before I outgrew it and upgraded to dedicated hosting. Now at the time of this recording, Bluehost costs only $3 a month to run a fully featured online store, and Bluehost will probably last you until you hit about 10,000 visits per month. Anyway, I'm going to go over all the various e-commerce platforms in depth in the next lesson of this series. But basically, you'll have a bunch of choices depending on what type of shopping cart that you want to install, your budget, and how tech savvy you are. Also, because of my connections in the e-commerce space, I've actually negotiated discounts with all the major providers. For example, if you want to launch your online store and you want a fully hosted platform where they do everything for you, you might want to sign up for a service like Shopify or BigCommerce. Now for Shopify, I've negotiated a discount where you can get a free trial. And if you sign up for BigCommerce, you can get your first month for free. All the links for these discounts can be found in the show notes below, but I've also filmed full-length tutorials that will walk you through how to design a great-looking website on these platforms as part of a subsequent lesson. By the way, in the event that you just randomly stumble upon this tutorial on YouTube, there are 9 other lessons when you sign up for my free 6-day mini course below. Now, in the next lesson, I'm going to show you all the different e-commerce platforms that are available and help you choose the platform that best matches your personality and your exact situation. I'll also show you a step-by-step video on how to install and launch your website. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this free lesson. Just keep in mind that the content that I presented to you today is just a high-level introduction and a very small taste of one of the many modules in my full-blown class on how to start a profitable online store. My full-blown class can be found over at profitableonlinestore.com. And if you want to learn how to run an online business in much greater depth, feel free to check it out. I go over how to find and research a profitable niche to sell into. I teach you how to set up a fully featured online store without requiring any technical knowledge and without spending a lot of money. I'll show you how to source your products online and pay the lowest prices possible for your goods and make a profit. And I'll show you how to validate your products on platforms like Amazon or eBay to make sure that they will sell before you start your own online store. And then finally, when you do launch your store, I'll teach you how to drive large amounts of targeted traffic to your website without spending a lot of money. No technical skills are required, and I'll teach you how to design a high-converting online store website without hiring a developer. All these topics are well covered in my online store course, which can be located at profitableonlinestore.com. But don't forget, we're not done. There are 5 more lessons after this one, so stay tuned.